everyone. Welcome to today's interview skills workshop. Today I'm really going to help you tackle some of the common misconceptions some new interviewers have about the interview process. So really just to frontline the agenda, I wanted to focus on so I just wanted to start off with a few questions that many of you might have in terms of why we interview, why is it important, and maybe even just address some misconceptions that I know a few students have had in terms of, the importance of this process and how it's integral to their career development. So first question is, why do we interview and why is it so important? And a common misconception, I've already included everything employers need to know about me in my one-page resume. Well, a resume is really, as we've mentioned before, it's a marketing plan, it's a marketing strategy. It's what you use as a talking piece, but really it's how you present yourself and the perceptions that people can make about you as a professional, as a potential worker there, and a candidate that are important. Why do we prepare for an interview? So a misconception might be, why can't I just be myself? I really don't want to sound scripted. And that's definitely something to be mindful of is, are you sounding scripted? You don't want to appear like a clone, but at the same time, you're really, really using these tools to help you access opportunities. And in order to enter these fields, you're going to have to play a game, so to speak. You're going to have to present yourself in a certain way that might not be fully unique and fully authentic, but it's a different persona that you develop in order to get a job, in order to be successful, and in order to really make an impact. And so it's just learning how to play by the rules and just doing it and accessing these opportunities that can really set your career trajectory in a positive way. What are some rules to follow during after the interview? And a question might be, why won't I just get more nervous if I have to remember a dozen interview do's and don'ts? I think it's the contrary. If you are mindful of these things and you've practiced them and you understand the standards, again, you're able to use, pick up one of the tools in your tool box and use it in a way that can access these amazing opportunities. You're able to use this interview skill set, which really is transferable in any part of the job, because chances are you're going to be dealing with clients, you're going to be going through multiple occasions which are just like interviews where you're sort of selling something or you're presenting something or you're responding to questions and troubleshooting. So that's really why interviewing is so important, and that's why it's really the first step to any job process in ascertaining who you are and what motivates you in terms of this career, this industry. So preparation, getting ready for the interview. I just want to stress this a little bit in terms of talking about some interview disasters that I've seen and just making sure that we can troubleshoot that off the bat. I mean, I really expect another level, another standard for my SEOU students to reach and meet and exceed. The first things first, I just want to talk about some of the basics. Just making sure that, you have everything in order, like I said, and that really what we're giving you feedback on are not these twitches or these fidgets or the wrong shirt that you wore, but more your content and, sort of where we feel like you'd be a best fit. So that's the kind of feedback I want to give you. I want to give you feedback on, okay, let's just, improve that a little bit, or I would really focus on this, as opposed to these blatant sort of errors there. I mean, I've had one student that actually came in chewing gum, and I told him, okay, looks like you have gum, can you please not chew gum during the interview? And he ended up just putting the gum on the table and then continued, and then he left without throwing it out. And I mean, so that just kind of goes to show the range of things that we've seen. And so recruiters in general just tend to be very sensitive to things such as emails or faux pas such as that. So again, let's work on that prior to you coming to interview. So what are the basics? So definitely want to bring your license or state ID just for security purposes to get into most buildings, especially in big cities. 3 copies of your resume, and so that 1 to 2 would be for for the staff member recruiters that are going to be there interviewing you, and another will then be for an alumni member or even a partner member that might be interviewing as well. Pen and paper. So if we, mention a resource that you should access, anything like that, and sometimes it's even helpful to just write down, any feedback that we give, which feedback is not a part of our formal interview, but anything that you might need to know, it's just good use to have pen and paper. And then additionally, we'll give you a quick math question, so that's something that we want you to strategize around. So that's why pen and paper are helpful with that. What to wear. So business formal attire. So making sure that you have that black or navy blue suit, that you have a light versus colors. So you want to really make sure that you have a light colored shirt. So I would say a shirt that's light blue or white, and as I mentioned, black or navy suit. And also make sure, just a heads up about the suit, make sure that it's something that fits you. Make sure, for ladies, make sure that it's something that's not too short. Right above the knee or below the knee is perfect, just in an interview setting, and make sure to keep those slits to a minimum. And then for men, make sure to have a suit that fits you all the way up and down. A suit jacket that's not too big or too small. I mean, as you can imagine, just, I've mentioned in professionalism, managing perception, just talking about how, even just a look or an appearance can make you look in a certain light, but you're not necessarily. So if you see someone in a big suit, sometimes it makes you look rather childish. If you see someone in a really skinny, short suit, you kind of look a little comical. So those are just the things to keep in mind as you're, choosing your outfits. And I mean, use what you can that you have that conforms to these standards. I'm not expecting anyone to go out and buy an Armani suit, but I'm sure you have a lot of peers that do have suits. So that's definitely something we want you to wear, and make sure to have your suit jacket on as well. Now the basics. So just some do's and don'ts, and usually I like to couple this with a mock interview or two, just to kind of give you an idea of some of the worst and some of the best that I've seen. But definitely, just a full list of this. So do's: arrive early, have a firm handshake, bring copies of your resume, like I mentioned. Maintain good eye contact with all interviewers. Now this is really, really huge, because oftentimes there might be one interviewer that's sort of leading the show, so to speak, and but the other person is evaluating you as well. So if they feel like they haven't been given your full attention, or you haven't even considered them in an interview, that's something that can be sort of assessed on their interview form. So be thorough in all answers, and that's really, really huge. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the critical behavior interview that we have later, but this is definitely something we're really looking to get you from, we did this and we analyzed this, to what did you do? What was your sort of motivation for that? Why did you do it that way? Walk us through the steps. So it really behooves you to be thorough and transparent in this process. Articulate interest in the industry. So, stories are fine. So whether you began your interest in finance because your mother, had a new business, or, you had to manage your family's financial documents, whatever that is, and then definitely take it from there. So I want you to speak outside of just, oh, I'm a leader and I have a great attention to detail, and talk to me about, understanding the industry, use the right diction, and be able to just really express where your interests lie there. Give examples. So this is really huge. So when I ask you, which skills do you think are necessary to be successful in, the corporate financial leadership program, I want you to say, I have great attention to detail, this and this and this, and a few examples of that include, just really taking it that extra mile, again, to answer that question, and be thorough with your answers. And lastly, do your research. So if I ask you, what is investment banking? Who are our investment banking partners? What do you do on a day-to-day basis in investment banking? Or, for any of the programs, that's really the first question that I ask. And so I guarantee that's what sort of blows students out of the water, is that they don't necessarily understand that we just want to understand that you have a good, thorough knowledge of things. And so research is huge. Don't arrive late or dressed inappropriately. Obviously, the late thing, I really expect you to be at least 15 to 20 minutes early. And if you're not, that's just something that I take into account as to why, and is this important to you, and do you respect my time? Because I might, have a long day of interviews, and I want to get through students quickly, and if you're sort of holding up the show, that's something that can really, mess up my workflow. Demonstrating bad body language, so i.e. fidgeting or slouching. So, it's definitely great to be comfortable, and, students ask me, couldn't I use my hands when I'm speaking? How expressive should I be? And I think, definitely don't do anything that's super distracting, but if it's something that, shows interest, I, eat that up, and I think that that's great. If it's fidgeting or slouching, again, it shows a disinterest, and it definitely sends a message. And, I mentioned before, talking about informational interviews, that you should stand up and that you should do all these things, and I guarantee body language and the way that you sort of manifest during an interview really affects even your answers, your tone of voice, all of that. So it's really great just to be on alert, and sometimes even sit towards the sort of front of your seat so that you're able to stand up, stand up straight. Don't make negative comments about anyone. So if you had a previous employer or a group member that was just horrible, don't use that word. Just say that it was, you had some conflicts, or, you experienced some challenges here and you understood, but, what you did. So really just focus on the you as opposed to that person. And then don't rely on the employer to tell you what they do. You should know. So I've had a lot of students that will sort of flip the script on me, and I say, okay, what is investment banking? And they kind of give me their answer and say, I'd really, from your point of view, what do you feel like investment banking sort of adds? Or they'll just kind of flip the question, and I just flip it right back. So that definitely is something that we want you to know inside and out. Game plan. So again, huge in preparation for this. So be relaxed. So do what you can to be relaxed, whether it means practicing, whether it means, having your ritual in the morning, eating your Wheaties, whatever it is, being centered and being, available to answer questions in a way that you feel comfortable and the way that you feel interested in is definitely going to, come across to the interviewer. Approach the interview with a plan. So definitely think about what you want to talk about. What are the things that you want to highlight? What are your most substantive experiences, and how are you going to go about making sure that you touch on them? Think about keywords, jargon relevant to the job, and hopefully this is something that you already have sort of in your toolbox. And just having read, industry periodicals and news and understanding our partners, that's really, really going to be huge. So if you say, I want you to say the word valuation as opposed to, sizing companies up. Like, I want you to know what that means. Be open to connect with the employer. So I think that's really a huge part of being relaxed as well, is if you're talking to an employer and, they sort of smile or whatever, you know more to talk about whatever you're talking about. So if you see me smiling when you're talking about a DCF model and going in depth, obviously you know how to respond and you know how to sort of engage me, and that's huge. Eye contact is also huge there. Be enthusiastic. So like I mentioned, I don't mind flailing hands as long as they don't distract from your questions, or from our questions, or from the interview itself. So definitely feel free to show your personality. It doesn't have to be excessive. I don't want you to be informal, but if you're passionate about something, and if you have a story, and if you know how to engage, then that's completely fine. Be able to talk about your skills. So really be able to list them out. So when I ask, what skills do you have that are relevant to the position, I want you to have those skills ready. I don't want you to think of them. I don't want any stock answers either. Really try to be innovative here. And then lastly, have questions prepared. So have questions that show, your research, your understanding. It's okay to, look into our background and to read our bios and to ask about that. But really ask questions that you want answered. Ask questions that reflect research. Ask questions, that sort of help us to ascertain your interest in our programs. And if you have more questions about that, about asking questions, feel free to mention it in our cohort calls, and we can kind of screen some of them for you. So prepare to impress. So do your homework, and I mentioned all the ways that you can do that, and just follow up on things. And I'll give you a lot more resources as we continue in this presentation. Have an opinion, and if you don't have an opinion, be able to express opinion of popular professionals in the field. Stay in the know. So make sure to dissect corporate news, be a part of email alerts. I've mentioned New York Times Deal Book, where you can actually sign up for an email subscription there. They email you twice a day with very large, sort of industry news, breaking news. Get involved, part of a relevant campus club or organization, and I've already seen many of those on your resume, but some of them might be related to a minor, but not necessarily to your major or to finance. And so if you don't have a club or organization that you're part of that's in finance and you don't have access to one for some reason, create one, or assume a treasurer position on that in that organization. And I mentioned here industry associations are very huge. There's some keywords there, and definitely employers are in the know about what those industry associations are, so it helps to sort of assume something about you as a candidate if you're part of such an association. Now the interview. So the critical behavioral interview. Definitely one of the most, one of the most in-depth interviews that you'll probably ever have. And so the premise behind behavioral interviewing is that the most accurate predictor of future performance is past performance in similar situations. So employers use the behavioral interview technique to evaluate a candidate's experiences and behaviors so that they can determine the applicant's potential for success. The interviewer identifies job-related experiences, behaviors, knowledge, skills, and abilities that the company has decided are desirable in a particular position. In this way, it is more difficult to give responses that are untrue to your character because the employer structures very, very pointed questions to elicit detailed responses aimed at determining if the candidate possesses the necessary qualities. So really, all that being said, we are going to ask you the questions that are going to help us make the assumptions that we're looking for or the judgments that we're looking for. If you say that you have a great attention to detail, we're going to really, grill you. Okay, give us an example. Talk to us about this example. What did you do? How did you sort of maintain that? So it really helps to be transparent, and you should be equipped to answer the questions thoroughly. So what are employers looking for, and most specifically, what is SEO looking for? So 3 things: ability, willingness, and fit. So ability really is something that you couldn't necessarily change or sort of say, oh, I'm going to work on this outside of, say, Excel, PowerPoint. We really want to know that you understand the role inside and out, and this is your time to shine and to bring your best to light. So we want to see that you can grasp concepts quickly. So we're going to ask you about a case study. We're going to ask you questions about that. We're going to give you a quick math question, and that's going to be sort of where we ascertain that. Professional, academic, or extracurricular experiences. So we're going to look into your past and see if there's anything relevant there. Willingness, and I like to always use the analogy of sort of a sports fan. So as a fan, you really try to understand the industry. Let's say it's basketball, you understand the players, you understand sort of the team plays and what they do. And so, I want you to sort of be a sports fan about this. So you're in the know of what's going on, who's in what position, how many points were scored by a given player in any given game. I want you to know everything in that same way. So demonstrate a passion for the business and stay up to date on current events. Fit, being able to fit the role, have a positive professional demeanor as it relates to that industry. So it really takes some familiarity with the industry, corporate culture. So, if you're coming with a yellow hat on or something, I don't think that you understand, what corporate culture means. And, that's kind of an external, way of showing it. But even in terms of internally, just sort of demonstrating the diction, being able to present yourself well, being able to be organized in your statements, being mature, being thorough, and just knowing what the interviewer is looking for definitely fits the fit portion for most of our interviewees. And then demonstrating ability. So kind of honing in on that, like I mentioned some, extracurriculars that you could be a part of, but academics, so relevant coursework and grades. So, if you're someone that sort of wants to shoot for the stars, really interested in banking, but you don't have any relevant technical skill set or, any interest that's shown on your resume, that's definitely something that we look at. And I know most, if not all of you, have at least something on your resume, so it's really good to just expand on that as much as possible. Extracurricular activities to really highlight any leadership roles, key responsibilities that you had. And then past experiences. So how did you add value? Meaning, what did you contribute? What did you learn? What are the main skills that you gained from that experience? And how do your skills increase your candidacy? Because again, at the end of the day, we want to draw connections. And I've had some students that will say, oh, I don't have that much finance experience. And I dig through their resume and they have 10 courses in finance. That's relevant. You want to lead with that. This is not a time to be humble. I want you to be, gracious. I don't want you to be arrogant. That does not fly in SEO, and I'm guaranteeing it's not going to fly in most places. But at the same time, I want you to be sure of what you know and how you know it and how you learned it. So that's definitely what we're looking for in interviewers. And, all in all, it's confidence in this area. And then, just a few ways that we ascertain, again, ability. So we, in addition to asking you questions, we also give you case studies where you identify problems, demonstrate analytical skills, and then some problem-solving processes. We also give you quick math questions where we ascertain, your mental calculation ability and even how quick you do that math, and then how you make informed assumptions. So if you think that there are 600 billion people in the world when really there's a lot less than that. That's definitely something that will worry me, and I might make a judgment call on that. So just really thinking about, some some assumptions that you make that are well informed. And again, it really, really helps to practice these things so that you feel capable in an interview setting that is relatively high pressure. And then demonstrating willingness. So, again, I mentioned the sport analogy, but really just taking that another step, knowing the type of personality needed in the role, and fitting that personality set. Reviewing the company website, accessing bulk guides where, a lot of, entry-level employees will be talking to you about what they do, how they do it. So it's good just to be in the know about that. Talking to industry professionals, I would say, is one of the most valuable things that you can do. So hopefully many of you have already participated in the Alumni Spotlight webinars, but that's definitely something that will help a great deal when preparing. And then think about previous experiences in your life that will convey these characteristics. So really drawing them out and just saying, this is when I was diligent in this area. If you're applying to a high-pressure environment, tell me about a high-pressure situation where you came out on top. So that's what we're looking for in terms of willingness. Now fit. So, knowing your story, why do you want the job? Know your resume and incorporate details into answers to demonstrate abilities. So, again, a resume is just a talking piece. It's just a marketing, it's a marketing, strategy. So this is something that you take a step further. Demonstrating passion, program interest in how it relates to you, transferable skills from past jobs that you've had that are relevant, and then personal preferences and then how it aligns with jobs that you've had in the past. So how do you demonstrate fit, just aside from your personality characteristics and your background? So be knowledgeable about the market. So here is a list of different industry periodicals, websites, blogs. Be able to articulate financial market trends, so that obviously requires that you have a baseline so that you have a starting point. So if you just figured out what the Dow closed at yesterday, that tells me nothing about the trends that you followed, in the past few months. So I really, really want you to start now. If, in StockTrack, that was the purpose for that, just to make sure that you're on top of these things and that you're in the know. Express an opinion, and again, having an opinion means that you have research, that you have mastery in this area. So definitely in the next month, really focus on this. As we're going and finishing StockTrack and we're continuing on in the program, and focusing a lot on the interview. I just really want you to develop your own understanding and your own opinions about these things. So develop views on stories you're following, and views should demonstrate you are actively reading, like I mentioned before. And then interview follow-up. So, this is pretty basic, but, make sure to ask for a business card. Email within 24 hours and include a memorable snippet of your conversation or the benefit of the interview. So I really, really like when students say, I really appreciated your suggestion that I speak to a professor on my campus. I plan to do this on Monday, or whatever that be. So just something that I will remember, because oftentimes we have 8 to 10 interviews a day. And, I sometimes will tell students when I'm, in mock interviews that, this was really strong, but I might forget you by midnight, and you don't want to be unforgettable or, forgettable. You want to be unforgettable. So that's definitely a huge part, is to just be memorable in the interview and then just follow up, as actively as possible with the nice snippet. And then don't appear aggressive when following up or waiting to hear back. So if you emailed me and I didn't respond, typically a thank you doesn't elicit a response, but I might send you a response. But if not, don't continue forwarding it to me and include just a forward. That's a little bit aggressive. Or if you continue to call, it's a little bit worrisome. Definitely shoot an email. Wait a week too before reaching out, unless it's very dire. Then you're free to pick up the phone. And just kind of wanted to touch on these, what are 2 types of bad interviewing? So sometimes students will ask me, what are the faux pas that I need to stay away from? So too much information. So do not monopolize the conversation. So remember that the interviewer, their role is very sacred. They learned how to do it. They are in the know about that. They interview many, many students. You just want to make sure that you're not frustrating them by either monopolizing the conversation or taking control of the interview. Be thorough, but also concise. So, usually I won't stop someone that is really impressing me with their answer, but I might forget what they said. So typically, you don't want to speak any more than a minute long, because what happens is that the person will only remember the first and the last thing that you said. So it behooves you to be concise, say your answer in a few sentences, and, if the employer needs more information, that they will reach out for it. not enough information. So make sure interviewers can make positive conclusions about you, and I can't do that if I say, do you know what investment banking is, and you say one-line response. I really want you to draw connections. I want to know that you're passionate about this. And sometimes that comes across in just being a little bit more thorough when you're telling me about yourself, what motivates you, and what you understand the role to look like. So, something like I said, hi, I'm interested in investment banking because it looks exciting. Doesn't tell me anything. In fact, it sounds a little bit silly. So, I really just want you to take things a step further. And I said, consider this as a marketing presentation. You're selling yourself in a sense. You're selling your skill set. You're selling your time and your energy. So really, sell yourself up. You're a really strong candidate. We chose you for a reason. And these interview skills, these are just the first part in the process. And like I mentioned, mastery of this can take you so far. And lastly, managing perception. So these are just some things that I really do associate with positive interviewees, and I thought this was thought a lot, and this is what we're looking for in our ideal candidate. So someone who's eager, someone who's professional, smart, thoughtful, positive, a team player. So really, a lot of these you can see touch on some experiences that you're going to have to draw up for me so I can make these assumptions and judgments. Clear, innovative, and resilient. So this is what we're looking for in ideal candidates, aside from your technical capability. These are the attributes that we're looking for. So really think about experiences that you've had. Really think about what makes you unique. And, a good way to just focus on all of this is to revisit your SWOT analysis and just look at, where have you come from the beginning of summer to the end. And we're almost towards interviews. We're just going through mock interviews now. But I'm just really excited to see the growth here. And, I hope you take this feedback all in stride, and just know that, you could put this to work and you can really wow us. So we've given you all the tools. It's up to you to really practice. So I look forward to talking to you all this week. And if you have any questions and want to learn more, definitely check out our website, campus contacts that we do have. You can reach out to us. Alumni Spotlight webinars, using the interview prep resources on the SUU online community. So we have MBA and executive finance classes, which are webcasts. So you can look for that. Fundamental features of bonds for those individuals that are looking into asset management or sales and trading. The investment banking handbook is really, really relevant in terms of all of our programs that are in the banking program. And then program-specific Zoologic coursework. And, if you have any questions about anything that I've presented, I know a few of you have already done a good job of saying, okay, well, I'm having an informational interview. What should I prepare for that? Whatever, if it's specific, that's fine. Just mention it to us in cohort phone call 3. And we're making sure that, before you speak to program managers, that you feel confident and that you're ready to really portray your best qualities. And we're really, really excited to help you through this process. And so I hope you enjoyed this presentation and find it useful, and we will be talking to you soon.